Paul, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So, we are sitting here thanks to one of our friends, Danny Caro. Shout out to you, my best brother. And he told me that I met this guy, Paul Cavel. You got to speak with him. He was like really on me. And I've been checking out your YouTube channel. I've been like blown away with how great you are at what you do. So please tell us, how would you describe what you do?
Well, that's a multi-dimensional question. So what I do is I practice water method arts, qigong, neigong. Neigong is the inner core energy development work. Things like Tai Chi and bagua, meditation. And all of these are coming out of an ancient Chinese tradition, the water method, which came through Lao Tzu around 2,500 years ago. He wrote the book, the Tao Te Ching, which is very common and it's quite well known. But his work came from a much earlier place in China. You can trace the origins of his work back with a 4,000-year written history with the I Ching and a 1,000-year oral history. In fact, this work, we say it comes from China, but it doesn't really, because China didn't exist when this work was generated. And it was generated through deep meditation practices that the adepts back then practiced and basically mapped out the human energetic system and mapped out the human mind. And then from that, they looked for practices that allowed them to attain higher states of consciousness, to keep their bodies extremely healthy and robust, how to increase your lifespan, but not just increase the length of your life, but the quality, how to rejuvenate the body, how to grow a younger body as you age, yes, how to keep your mind clear, and how to let go of all that is false. And so you could say the main direction is letting go of your conditioning, letting go of your wants, letting go of your negative emotions, and generating a more positive individual. Yes, so that's kind of a brief look into that. But this material has been around and it's been practiced by millions, hundreds of millions of people. And now, since the 60s, since China opened its doors, this material has been trickling into the West. But we're still in the very early stages of that material coming into the West. And from a Western perspective, there's no equivalent. They look at the body differently. They map the body differently. They look at the energy, they look at the human being, they look at the 8 levels of a human being very differently to how we do in the West. So we're still trying to kind of understand their model, their maps of the cosmos, of creation, of all of these things. We're looking at their understanding is so radically different to the West. But then there's also a lot of threads that connect. It's just how you see it, you know, how you view it.
So what did you call it? You call it the water
Method. Yes, it's
the water method. And before we press record, we spoke about, can you see the silhouette here that I'm holding up?
Yes.
Yeah, so this is a moleskin notebook with the silhouette of Bruce Lee in it. They did a collaboration and I had to get it. So when I open it, it says like, be like water, my friend. And we like briefly touch upon like how this man has influenced us. And can you tell us the story of how you got so deep into the practice of energy work and the water? I'm so sorry, I just forgot it. You just told me that right now. The water method. I'm going to write this down so we don't forget about it. Yeah, the water method.
Yeah, it's a methodology, right? And it's a soft approach to training. So when Bruce Lee says, oh, be like water, yes, he's talking about, of course, the flow that's within water. He's talking about non-resistance, yes? If you resist your opponent, then the stronger opponent will win. If there's no resistance, they can't get you. Now, in one of his famous movies, one of his opponents throws a board in the air and hits it and breaks the board. And he said, boards don't fight back. Yes? Well,
Yes.
if you throw a feather in the air and you hit the feather, you will never break the feather because the feather doesn't give any resistance. Water doesn't give resistance, but yet water can produce an immense force. Look at a tsunami. Look what a tsunami will do. Look what a strong storm will do to a ship. Yes. But the methodology is not just, flowing like water and not resisting your opponents if you're looking at a martial application of it, but also the whole methodology of how you train your body, not pushing, not forcing, not straining. Yes. But then again, not being lazy. We can always sit on the couch and watch the movies and go, oh, yeah, I know that technique. It's great. But then applying that technique in practical situation when someone's trying to really hurt you, that's another kettle of fish, as we say. So the whole point here is, how do you train your body? Yes. What is the quality of your training? When is it the right time to stop training in a session? And that is before you hit diminishing returns. So yeah, you asked me about my training, how I got into it, but you brought in this Bruce Lee thing, see? So I thought,
Yeah, we had to touch on Bruce Lee and then your background
let's
story.
cover that angle. But if you look at Western training, is this push, force, and strain. It's like weightlifting, lifting the heaviest possible weights that you can lift, or running the longest distance in the shortest time frame, or swimming the longest distance in the shortest time frame, the quickest you can cover a span of space. It's this real push yourself to your absolute highest possibility. And in doing so, you build up an internal resistance in the body and you build a glass ceiling. Yes. When you apply the water method to your training, you only go to 2/3 or 70% of your capacity. And when you do so, two important things happen. One, you leave a reserve in your body so you do not exhaust yourself. And two, your body receives that training with ease and you don't push yourself and you don't have your body pulling back, closing down, or shutting down because you take it to exhaustion. And what that does is it actually raises your glass ceiling. So as you train over time, you never get to the point where you stop developing and your potential stops increasing. And if you want to get down to the bottom of this, this is why in China you can see people in their 90s and 100 years old plus, and they're still healthy and running around the mountains. And some of them can still, if they're martial artists, they can still apply their martial arts at that age. And that you will never see a Western boxer in their 50s and 60s, my friend. Yes?
They can barely speak in that age.
Exactly. So this is a way of continuing your training into your old age and continuing your development. I'm sure we're going to get more into that. So Bruce Lee was one of the influences, but I would say the biggest influence I had was David Carradine when he did the program Kung Fu. And that came out when I was about 10 years old. And here they portrayed him as this great fighter, even though he wasn't that great actually in reality. But the character was this great fighter, but he was steeped in spiritual aspects of training. And he would never use his art against somebody unless it was absolutely necessary. And it was that aspect. It was the portrayal of that spiritual journey and state that really grabbed my attention. And then when I finally got to learning Kung Fu, I was sorely disappointed because the teachers did not portray that in any way, shape, manner, or form. Yes, it was ego. It was, I'm bigger, better than you are. I'm faster than you are. I'm stronger than you are. That was the whole energy in the room, yes, when you're training. And if someone's been there a while, they want to beat you just to show that they're better than you. And it was really quite tough, you know. But anyway, after watching that series and being influenced in that way, I had the opportunity at 14 to start training judo. It was provided at school. I was very surprised and happy. I did that for a couple of years. Then I trained various things with various friends, nothing seriously, like some taekwondo stuff, some karate stuff, diddly-dee. And then somebody turned up in our local town teaching kung fu. So I jumped on that. Found out it wasn't what I was after at all. Very disappointed. And then one day someone said to me, you should try Tai Chi. And I'm like, Tai what? And they said Tai Chi. And I'm like, okay, what's that? And they discussed it. And I'm like, oh, that fits with that ideal that I received from that Kung Fu program. So I read some books. Finally, I found someone teaching Tai Chi in 87. It was 1987. And I went to the class and it was what I was looking for sure. The second class, I said to myself, I'm going to do this for the rest of my life, which was quite a jump, yes. And yet here I am. What is it now? That will be around 38 years later. I'm still practicing and I'm still happy practicing and I'm still learning. This is the thing. Either I'm a slow learner or there's a lot of depth.
Wow. So what has been like some of your like life-changing beliefs like during practicing Tai Chi?
Okay. Well, first of all, it was the fact that it was a soft, relaxed, circular art. Yes? So there wasn't this push, force, and strain. In the external martial arts that I'd done, there was a very big focus on forcing the body open, forcing the body, stretching the body to a ridiculous degree. And if you didn't stretch your body strong enough, then the teacher would get 2 of his brown belts to come over and stretch your body for you. Yes. And I can remember being stretched and having tears. If I could feel the tissues in my body tearing from that stretching. Yes. And I mean, I'm like in my late teens, early 20s, and your body's pretty flexible at that age. And I remember then going, oh, that's not good, you know? And so that whole soft application within the Tai Chi really spoke to me. And it was more of a long-term progression of opening the body, not suddenly trying to rip the body open. And that sat well in my body. I already had injuries by that point, some pretty major injuries in my body at that point. From the training and also from motorcycle accidents. I had a few motorcycle accidents. One was particularly bad, which left my body riddled with damage. And so when I got into the Tai Chi, I was looking for an answer to those problems. The Western medical system had already told me there's nothing we can do. Walk with a stick. And as a young man, into sports, martial arts, mountain climbing, you know, it's like, that doesn't feel good, you know? And so I was in the process of looking for something that would undo the damage in my body or repair or heal my body. And so the Tai Chi, the methodology within Tai Chi seemed to fit with that because all the strong stuff I had done hadn't worked. And therefore I went into that. But then I found out that Tai Chi only works because of the neigong that is inside of it. And neigong is not a very well-known term. Neigong is the inner, deeper workings of qigong. So qigong is like the overarching term or the overarching principle of energy work, energy development. Yes. And neigong are 16 threads of specific material that you learn to open up, heal, and strengthen and revitalize all of your body systems. From your nervous system, your soft tissues, your joints, your skeletal frame, your organs, your blood vessels, your digestive system, your cerebral spinal system and brain. I mean, all of you, through layers of work. And each layer pinpoints one or several systems in the body. And then each thread of those 16 neigong have various techniques within them that teach you various stages of that specific thread of internal work. So this is the real deep material. This is what makes it an internal exercise, an internal practice. And this is what delivers all of those results that people go into those practices, qigong and tai chi, and the other internal arts, Ching, bagua, meditation, qigong tui na, all these things. All of those things are powered by that neigong. And that neigong you can learn as standalone material, and then you can insert that into any of the internal arts that you're practicing. And in fact, if you want to get down to the truth of the matter, Tai Chi is not purely Taoist, it's not purely water method, it's not purely internal art. It's a fusion of Taoist neigong, water method Taoist neigong, with 7 Shaolin Kung Fu fighting techniques. And that fusion generates this soft, circular, smooth, relaxed motion that you see in Tai Chi. Because Shaolin Kung Fu is not soft, smooth, and relaxed. It's sudden, hard, strong. Yes? Okay. So the art of Tai Chi is a fusion, and it's only a few hundred years old. So what was going on for the thousands of years in Taoist neigong practice before Tai Chi came along? Well, now you have the original art of the Taoist neigong of bagua, bagua zhang. And this is a much older and a much stronger, deeper practice than Tai Chi. But you do need to have a reasonably healthy body to practice bagua, where anyone just about can practice Tai Chi. Even when you're riddled with injuries, you can practice Tai Chi to some degree.
So could you like paint us a picture of how it is to train bagua and one of the 16 neigongs that you mentioned?
Okay. We can do that.
And Tai Chi. So these are like, you have the bagua, you have the neigong, and you have the Tai Chi. And qigong was like the overarching, like mothership or the umbrella of like these methods.
Yeah.
Am I understanding this correctly?
Yes, because like qigong is like Tai Chi is a form of qigong, if you will. Okay.
Yeah.
Technically, Tai Chi is a Qigong Neigong fusion, and Bagua is a deep Neigong practice. But Nei means inner, yes? Wei means outer. So Wei Gong is outer Qi practice. So it's like you move your muscles, you do things with your body, and because you're moving your body, you will move your blood and you will move energy within you. And if you do that enough, then you will develop your energy. It will become clearer, stronger, and you will gain more energy over time. Yes? Especially if you bring in that rule of thirds, only training to 2/3 of your potential or your capacity in any moment. So you never exhaust yourself. You leave a reserve and then you add to that reserve in every training session. Then your energy grows exponentially. Okay? If you don't do enough, you don't get enough circulation, you don't produce enough energy. If you do too much, you exhaust your energy, and therefore you have less than you started with. So this line of 2/3 of your effort is really important. And then, of course, that's the overarching term, qigong. Neigong is the specifics, as I've said, and qigong and Tai Chi, Xingyi, Tai Chi, and Bagua are the 3 internal arts that employ all the work within qigong and within neigong. So I said qigong has weigong and neigong. Weigong is the outer stuff. You find that more in the Shaolin material, and neigong you find within the Taoist water method and also other Taoist methodologies that are out there. But the water method is the oldest and the most original of the Taoist practices. And that is pure neigong. And so if we look at, well, breathing is one aspect of neigong. Now, a lot of people do breath work, yes? Breath work is extremely popular.
Yeah, it's grown a lot lately.
Yes. And I mean, breath work, if you look at breath work, the breathing practices give you access to several parts of your being. One, your breath work is tied directly to your nervous system. If someone comes in the room unexpectedly, you'll take a sudden intake of breath, right? And your nerves will, and your adrenaline will pump, right? So this is one way how you can see how your breath is tied into your nerves and your glandular system. And then, of course, when you've had a hard day and you get home, you drop your bags down, you flop on the couch and you go, because the out breath is a way of relaxing the body. Again, it's tied into your neurology. So if you have a smooth, long out breath, you release your nerves and your nerves let go of your muscles and your body physically relaxes. So this is one aspect of breath work. Another aspect of breath is the fact that your breath is also directly tied to your qi, your energy. And in fact, the same word in Chinese is used for breath and qi. So this creates a lot of confusion. Yes, a lot of people go qi, and it's like there's a lot of meanings to the word qi. Two of those meanings are breath and energy. And there is energy in everything, and there is energy everywhere. There's energy in the atmosphere. So when you breathe the air in, you literally are breathing energy into your system. Yeah, not just the physical air, but the energy within the atmosphere. Yes. And therefore, your breath is linked to energy. And your breath is also deeply linked to your mind. And when we say mind, the mental functions of thinking, yes, mentation, yes, critical thinking, analysis, all of this stuff is the mental body, which is the outer casing of the mind, okay? And therefore, when we say mind, we mean beyond the mental body and beyond, okay? Just for clarification. So as we're looking at this, now you can see that if you focus on your breath, there's a few different areas of practice here. Yes. So under one neigong, breathing, and it's breathing from the simple to the complex is the actual line for the breath, the neigong of the breath work. Simply breathing in and out. But then as you go deeper and deeper into it, you can access your nerves, your glandular system, you can access your energy, and you can access the depth of your mind. And this is why there are so many schools and so many traditions out there that use breath work. Okay, so this is one example of a neigong thread, which is a common one. But then let's look at another neigong thread, pulsing. A pulse. What is a pulse? Well, your heart pulses, doesn't it? It beats. But it's not just your heart that has a pulse. All of your organs have pulses. If you go to the acupuncturist, he will feel your wrist and take your pulses. Not just the pulse of the heart, but the pulse of the liver, the kidneys, the lungs, the spleen, yes? So your organs have pulses. Every aspect of your physicality has a pulse. Your joints pulse, yes? Your cells pulse. Pulsing is a rhythm of life. And if you want to see a pulse in action, look at an octopus or a jellyfish moving through water. And the way it moves is a pulsation. Yes, they have no bones, right? And they just pulse in this very smooth way. Yes. And you can train your body so that all your joints pulse and open and close in a rhythmic manner, which is very different to this reciprocal inhibition work that we do with the muscles in the West. The Chinese system sees the muscles as the weakest fiber in the body, which it is. So their perspective is, why focus on the weak material? If you focus on the fascia, the ligaments, and the tendons, they're way stronger than the muscles, and then the muscles will come along for the ride. And so their method is to activate the fascia of the body, activate the ligament, activate the tendons, and then the muscles will activate. You know, every muscle is wrapped in fascia. So if you can open up the fascial bag of the muscle fiber will also extend and stretch with it. Yes? And then you have soft muscles. Then the tone in your body is very soft. Yes? But in an instant, it can go really hard. Okay? But if you make your body hard, you cannot necessarily make it go soft. Okay? So this is a little entry, if you will, into neigong.
So I associate the pulsing neigong to what I traditionally have seen like qigong, like these slow movements, which feels like pulsing now when you are describing it. Is that a form of neigong, like this classic now quote unquote like qigong, where you stand and you're like moving your hands really slowly and you have like these different forms of moving? Is that like, could you say that that's a pulsing neigong?
Not necessarily.
No. Okay.
Not necessarily. Let's look at this. There's the
Yes, please.
casing, and then there's what's inside of the casing and what's in the core. So if we just take an arm, for instance, the bag of skin is the outer casing. Under your skin is the superficial fascia of the body. So you can actually remove the skin and the body will stay the same. Basically, it holds its form because the fascia holds it in place. If you remove the layer of fascia, which is really, really thin, your muscles would fall apart. The fascia holds your body together. So we have we have the skin, then we have the fascia, then we have the muscle, and then under the muscle, we got the bones. Yes? Great. Now, where the bones meet, you have a joint, and the joint is what pulses. So I can make a very smooth movement, yes, with my arm, but I'm not really affecting the pulse in the joints, right? And I can affect the pulse in the joint and not really change the shape of the hand. So if you look at the center of my hand right now, everything is pulling into the center of my hand, and yet the shape has not changed, and now the hand is opening, but the shape's not really changing. This is changing the shape of my hand. So this is my muscles, right? This is my soft tissues. But now this is the joints are opening up, and the shape of the hand is remaining pretty much the same. And it takes a while to get to bypass the muscles, because I'm not using muscular effort here. Yes? The muscles in my body.
Paul, this is so weird. I never been aware of this sensation. I'm trying it now. It feels really different. So do you get this reaction a lot when people are trying this, that they have never experienced
Absolutely. This is what I'm saying. The way
this is weird. Yeah, this is the first time I'm feeling this. I'm doing it with my hand right now.
Sure. The way that the Taoists look at and move the body is so radically different to the Western, right? People.
Yeah, it's a completely different language. It's a completely different planet.
It is basically.
Yeah.
So let's look at this. What is actually happening in the pulse? The bones are moving further away from each other and moving towards each other. That's what's happening in the pulse. The bones separate. That's called an opening, and then they come together. That's called a closing, right? Now, it is possible to do that from using your soft tissues, okay? But it's also possible to get inside the joint and do it from the fluid of the joint itself, the synovial fluid. Now, all your synovial joints have a capsule around them that contains that synovial fluid. On the inside of the capsule, there is the synovial membrane that secretes fluid into the joint to keep the joint healthy. As you age, your synovial capsule does less. Your synovial membrane does less. Your body starts to dry out, okay? And you have less range of motion. And you're stiffer and more angular in your motions. But if you learn to pulse through your body, your entire skeletal frame opens and closes in a rhythmic unison that is sublime when you experience it. Your body actually produces more fluid. Well, where does it get it from? It draws it out of the blood It takes the blood plasma and puts it into the joints, which sends a signal to the brain that you need more blood, more liquids. So you hold more of the liquids that you drink when you are, when you're drinking it, you will take more of that and contain it. Now, it's a well-known fact that a baby is born around 75% fluid.
75.
If you take 75% fluid, when you look at really old people they're dropping down to about 50% fluid.
Wow.
That's 1/3 drop in the fluids of their body. Obviously, the body's not going to function well. I mean, you need fluid to get rid of the toxin. So if you haven't got fluids moving around, you don't get rid of your toxins, toxic buildup. If you don't have enough fluid in your body, your intravertebral discs are made of basically fluid. So your body will take that fluid when it needs it, and therefore your spine shuts down and you've got all sorts of issues. Yes? And it will take the fluid from the joints, or it won't have the fluid to put in the spinal column, or it won't have the fluid to put into the joints. Yes? And so you literally dry out as you age. So if you practice pulsing over years and decades, your body is actually more open, fluid, and alive than you were in your younger years, my friend. That's why it's called a rejuvenation practice. Yes?
So can we zoom in on water here? So I've studied a little bit of Chinese medicine. This was 20 years ago. And what I remember is that your urine should be the color of gold. It should have a yellow golden color. And now we have like a lot of like health advice there to drink a lot of water. So what's your perspective and what are your ideas on like drinking water, what kind of water, and just like the intake of fluids, besides of just like how the fluid moves within us?
Yeah. Okay.
Do
Well,
you have a perspective on this?
I got a few things. Yeah.
Let's be like water, my friend.
I've looked into this a lot. I mean, I'm connected with a bunch of medical people, both in the traditional Western, traditional Chinese, and alternative scenes. Yes. And there's one thing that is coming out now, kind of across the board, and that is empty water. Everyone's going for all this mineral that we used to, they're going for, but we used to look at water as a way of supplying our minerals. So everyone was, you got to get your mineral water, right? You got to have mineral.
And now we have supplements to add minerals into the water as well. So that has become a really big business.
Has it? Okay.
Yeah.
Right. But look at it like this. What's one of the primary functions of water in your body? Well, of the water you have in your body, 75% of your water is intercellular. It's in the cells of your body. And then you have 25% of the water in your body are the circulatory fluids, right? And the circulatory fluids are things like blood, interstitial fluid, the water that is moving through the tissues of your body, which is around 2.5 times the amount of blood. So if you have 5 liters of blood, then you have 12.5 liters of interstitial fluid, right? You're going to have about a liter of lymph fluid. Then you're going to have a liter and a half of cerebral spinal fluid, and maybe half a liter of synovial fluid. So we're getting up there, aren't we?
Yeah.
Okay. And
it never ends.
These are moving around. And then your digestive fluids, okay? And these are moving around your body constantly. Now, blood moves all the time. Cerebral spinal fluid moves all the time. But lymph, synovial, and interstitial fluid only move when you move your body. When you move smoothly and continuously, those fluids move well. If you move sudden and fast, they don't move very well. So this is another argument for this smooth, continuous, soft motion. So now to tag into what you were asking before. So you can make these really nice, smooth movements in qigong, but it doesn't mean you're pulsing inside of it. The pulse is inside of the movement. The pulse can be by itself, or the pulse can be inside the movement. So half the movement will be opening and half the movement will be closing. So the hand will be slowly growing and expanding for half of the movement, and then it will be slowly shrinking and drawing in for the second half of the movement. And you can see I have not put tension in my body here. This is a very soft. This isn't like, oh, I'm making fists or I'm doing this kind of stretching. No, it's not like that. It's like this. And the hand is incredibly soft and flexible in that state. There is no hardness. So this is an aspect of being like water, having this constant softness, never go into this stiff point, never go into this tension point in the body. Yes? But now let's get back to the water. Your water, your blood plasma basically leaks into the interstitial fluid, into the cerebral spinal system, into the lymph system, into your synovial system. Yes. And it deposits liquid and then they return back to your blood. So they are all like offshoots of blood circulation. So the Chinese say blood, and what they mean is the 5 main fluids of the body: blood, interstitial, lymph, cerebral spinal, and synovial, because they're all loops coming out of and back into your bloodstream. So if your blood is there, it takes the nutrients of your body and it dumps the nutrients into the interstitial fluid, the lymph, the cerebral spinal system. And those systems take all those nutrients to every cell of your body. Then what happens is the cellular garbage and the toxins find their way back to the blood to get expelled out of the body through the bladder, through the bowels, through sweating. Okay. And therefore you've got all this looping within the fluids. Now, if the water you are drinking is full of mineral, well, when the bus turns up at the bus stop and it's full, how many people can get on the bus?
0. If it's full.
So if the water you're drinking is full, the water cannot do that incredibly important job of becoming the fluids of the body and transporting the nutrients, because water can hold a certain amount of material and then it just cannot absorb anymore. Yes, it can only hold a certain amount of salt. If you try and dilute too much salt into too little water, you'll just get salt deposits at the bottom because the water cannot absorb it. It's full now.
I think we all did that experiment in school where you're dissolving salt in the water and just seeing when it gets full and you can't dissolve any more water. So what are you saying with this? When the water is full of minerals, the body can't
for the nutrients that your body requires from the food it's taken in, and it cannot take the cellular garbage out of the body. It cannot get rid of that material. And so toxins build up in nooks and crannies where muscles connect, or where the tendon goes into the bone, or where the organ lays on the organ. There's a little pocket there. And so the body collects all this toxic waste and all this cellular garbage. Yes. And when you drink a lot of empty water, what that does is it flushes the material out of your body. Okay.
So what is empty water?
Empty water is basically water that is not too high in a mineral content. Yes. It doesn't have any impurities in it. Now, they're finding this with the 4th state of water. I don't know if you've been tuning into that. This has been coming up the last couple of decades now. This 4th state of water, which is halfway between liquid water and frozen ice. And what they notice is when they bring the water into this state, it naturally filters itself. So what they've done is they've done experiments with dye in water, put it in the bag, bring it to a certain temperature, and then you just watch all the dye in the water go to the outer extremities of the bag, and the water in the middle is clean and clear. Okay, so the water is cleaning itself at a certain state, when it's in a certain state. Yes.
And what state is that?
It's called fourth state of water. It's kind of halfway. If you do it with temperature, it's halfway between room temperature and frozen.
Yeah. So does the water have to be in a specific room or get like exposed to certain radiation or grounding, or it's just
That's a temperature thing. The
it's a
molecules
temperature thing? All
filter
right.
out the impurities. And they're
Mm.
saying that the blood plasma is very close to this fourth state of water. So it's wanting to get rid of this, yes, this toxic buildup. So there's a lot of people now saying that this empty water is the way to go because it cleanses the body. It gives your body what you need, and you're supposed to be getting your minerals from other sources, like the food you eat. If you eat good food, you'll be getting the minerals. Yes?
Yeah.
Supplements aren't the best, are they? Because they're not living. Like,
Yeah.
you know, if you take zinc or iron or any of these supplements or any of the vitamins through plant material, is way better for your body than if it's chemically produced in a lab. So the
Yeah.
natural material is always at a better level, better quality than man-made.
So has that to do with that is bioavailable? It's more bioavailable than lab-produced vitamins.
I think the body recognizes the energy within it. Now, let's
Yeah.
link this back to Qi. Qi tells the body what to do, not the other way round. So if you practice qigong, neigong, tai chi, bagua, meditation, any of this material, if you practice that, then you will move energy because of the physical movements you're doing. It will make the energy move, right? But that's not really qigong if you want to get down to it, because qigong means energy work. Well, now you're doing a physical exercise that moves your qi. Well, that's not energy work, believe it or not. That's physical work that affects your qi. So energy work means you're crossing over from using the body to move energy to recognizing, feeling, contacting, and manipulating your energy to affect your body. So then the mind controls the qi. The mind directs the qi. And then as the qi moves through the body responds to that, and it becomes in motion. Yes? So this is very different.
And when you mentioned the mind here, I wanted to ask you this. So how much is like visualization taking part when you're doing qigong? Is it a part of it at all, or tai chi, or this water methodology? Do you need to visualize like the energy coming to certain points, or is it just like mostly the movements, or is this another neigong?
No. This
I'm
is
trying to orient myself here.
Yeah, I see that. It's great. But look, Morgan,
Yeah.
visualization, right, has been put out because of these practices that are done in particular traditions. And that's their way. And that's absolutely fine. If they work with that and they get results with that, I am not knocking them. But Taoism, water method Taoism, has nothing to do with visualization. Okay? My teacher used to say this. Okay, so you think visualization can do something for you. I want you to do this. Visualize you're a duck. Okay. Now lay me an egg. And I want you then to cook that egg for me. And I want to taste it. I want to taste what that is like. You see, we're all getting mixed up with the menu rather than the meal. Visualization is the menu. Okay?
Yeah.
Direct perception is the meal.
So what do you mean?
How do you directly perceive energy within you and around you? That's the road of neigong.
Can you explain that?
Yeah, I can. To directly perceive it, to contact, to feel, know it. Okay, now, what can we say? Imagine for the moment, what's your favorite meal?
You're asking me. Okay, it's kebab. If I don't have to think about it's healthy, then it's
No. It's got nothing to do with healthy. Like kebabs. Okay.
Yeah, I love it too much.
Imagine a kebab.
Yeah.
And imagine what a kebab tastes like. That's the visualization. Now, if someone gives you a kebab and you eat that kebab, now you directly perceive the flavor, texture, temperature, and quality of that kebab.
Yeah.
There is no ambiguity. You know what that kebab is. It's in your hands. It's in your mouth. You know it. You with me?
Yeah.
That's the difference between a visualization, yes, an image, an idea of something, and the actual reality of that something. Great. Now, qigong is a process. You practice a movement and you're given instructions. If you have a good teacher, they will lead you in layers of practice until you hit this point. And the point is, you can go beyond your physicality. You can go inside of your body. You can feel the connection to your organs. You can feel the blood flow within your body. You can feel the qi flow within your body. And once your mind has contacted the qi, it can return to the qi. And once it's got there, then the qi can move the body.
You know what I'm thinking about, and I want your perspective on this, is that like when we're speaking around about what you can do with qigong and tai chi, and how you can not only like, it's another perspective, but you can also heal a lot of ailments which Western medicine does not heal. From like, so can you share your perspective on healing, and what have you experienced people become freed from? What illnesses have they gotten rid of?
Well, Morgan, I've been doing this a while, yes?
Yeah, like 38 years.
30, yeah, I'm in my 38th year. And
Yeah.
I've been professionally teaching for 30 years, okay? I've come across all sorts of material and all sorts of people getting all sorts of benefits, yes? And so there's one caveat that I want to bring in here.
All right.
Placebo effect.
Yeah.
There's studies that have been done to show that the placebo effect itself is responsible for 1/3 of all healing.
That's a huge number. Yeah, that's huge.
Western medicine, Eastern medicine, hocus pocus nonsense, real deep energy work, meditation practices, all of it. They say 1/3 of all healing is the placebo effect. So if someone comes into a class and they learn and they truly believe what you're doing is going to help them, that's a positive, right? Right there. That's a positive.
Yeah.
If someone comes to class and they're like, oh, I don't believe in this mumbo jumbo nonsense, right? Well, they're blocking. That's the nocebo effect. It doesn't matter even if they do it right and well and it can heal that problem. They've just blocked it because their mind is shut off to it. So both of those exist. Okay. We live in the realm of duality. These things are never in a single line. There's always a shadow or an opposite to these things. If there's a placebo, there's a nocebo. Okay. You can block it, or you could bring it about, whether that has the technology to do it or so. Now, with the technology, the neigong goes through the layers and systems of the body systematically, finding, removing the blockages and healing the body, and then strengthening, upgrading, and rejuvenating your systems. And if you do it enough, you will rejuvenate your body to a much younger body. And people go, oh, you can't do that. I mean, I've heard all the arguments, right? Over the decades, I've heard the arguments. Well, let's put it to you like this. Do you know how long it takes you to regenerate your liver?
No, but it's quite a short time. Is it a week?
No, it's less than a year.
Less than a year.
They say around 300 days. So you're telling me the largest internal organ that can hold a liter of blood, your body completely digests it and rebuilds a new one every year. So how many livers have you had? Interesting, eh?
Yeah, over 40 right now.
Exactly. I think over 60. Great. Okay. So then That's one aspect. Your soft tissues of your body are completely replenished every 7 years. Some parts of your body, some of your organs, your brain, your spine, spinal cord, things like this, they can take 30 years. Your spine itself, your entire skeletal frame is just over a decade. Can you imagine? You have digested your spine and rebuilt it 3 or 4 times. Now, that's subconscious activity. Because you don't go to bed at night and go, oh, that vertebrae needs a new bit, grow it tonight. I need to grow that tonight. You don't think about that. That's just constant, right? So if your body is naturally regenerating itself again and again and again, why can't you upgrade the regeneration? Why does it have to be a downgrade?
That's a really interesting question. And are we doing something that is blocking the regenerative process?
Oh, yeah. Our minds telling us we can't do it, for one. Then all the nonsense we eat and all the chemicals in the environment and all the stresses we're under, yes, all the toxic load on a physical, energetic, and mental level, and psychic and karmic and God knows what else that's out there that's coming at us.
A lot of things going on right now.
We're inundated with all this and we're trying to deal with it, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so first of all, I'd like to say I would like to use my own example because it's clear to me. It happened. It's real. I didn't make it up. It's not a story that I heard from someone that said something about someone else, right? I did it. So I mentioned earlier I had a lot of injuries when I came to doing qigong and tai chi. And those injuries were from my external martial arts stuff, getting damaged from that, several motorcycle accidents. One in particular, I got hit in the rear at 50 miles an hour.
Wow.
The car was moving 50 miles an hour faster than I was. And that was a pretty bad accident. I didn't have one broken bone. I flipped through the air 4 times. I landed on the ground. I had metal jammed into my body. I wasn't bleeding. I had no broken bones. But internally, I was riddled with torn ligaments, herniations in muscles. My spine was displaced immensely. It was really thrown out. I mean, you can imagine, right? So that left me in a really bad state. I mean, I was conscious through the whole thing and I stood up and I walked away from that accident. I mean, the adrenaline rush you get in that situation is colossal. You don't feel any pain in the moment, but the next morning, the next morning, I could not move. Yes. And I mean that. I couldn't move. Breathing was labored. I had a 2-second length of breath. 1 second in, 1 second out.
Wow.
That was my breath. I had a piece of metal rammed into my diaphragm. My diaphragm was torn. I had ligaments in my spine and my knee that were torn. I had herniation in my psoas muscle on one side. And I mean, all sorts of other minor things. My colon was damaged pretty badly and But because I had no external or internal bleeding, I had no broken bones, the medical system said, well, there's not much we can do for you. Yes? Now, I remember back in those days, because it's very different now, I went to North Africa. And I don't know if you know, but back in the 80s in North Africa, there were no sit-on toilets. They're all holes in the ground. Yes.
Love those.
I really struggled because my left leg wouldn't bend. Yes. I couldn't bring my knee up towards my chest and bend my left hip because of that herniated psoas, right?
Yeah.
The pain was too intense. So I went through a process. I found Tai Chi, and then I found neigong, and then I found the water method. Yeah, these like layers going in. And I was driven. I had reason. Taking a step was painful. I couldn't do sports and martial arts. All the things I was previously engaged in were off the table, you know. And so I went through a process, and it took some time, I will admit. But I got to the point where I opened up, healed, and released those damages from my body. Yes. And then something interesting happened. Not only did I get my body back, I didn't need a stick to walk like the Western doctors were telling me. And I could do the things I wanted to do. I could get back in the martial arts a bit and da. Yes. But my body was actually becoming better than it was before my accident. Yes. And I'm still convinced that my body now, I'm just coming up 62. My body now is more flexible and healthy than it was in my early 20s. And if I hadn't have had that accident and gone through that path, I wouldn't have done. I wouldn't be in this situation right now. So this is like, when I told my teacher about my accident, he goes, "Oh, that was a nice gift from the gods." And I'm like, "What do you mean?" And he says,
it's a gift.
You'll see, because if you really do go through this, you're not just going to unwind all of that damage you got in your accident. You're going to unwind all of these other damages that you're carrying from all the other things you've done in your life. And it was true. But it did take about a decade for me to get to that point. Yes? Daily practice for a decade. So again, this isn't a sudden, quick hit wonder that, you smoke a pipe and then you're there. This is very much, you do a daily practice and you do it within your rule of thirds, 2/3 of your effort, and you do it in a sensible way and you do it regularly. You don't have to do so much, but you do need to do consistent, regular, soft practice over a period of time. And then you start to tap into, because first of all, you've got to get below these superficial muscles. Yes. Yeah. And we all carry tension in our muscle groups. So first of all, you've got to rid your body of that. That takes a time. And then you go in a bit deeper. Then you access your fascias, and then you access your ligaments, and then you access your joints, and then you start accessing your organs, and then you get into your glands, and you get into your energy centers and your channels, and you get into your mind. And that's the journey of neigong, you see. You go through the body and you clear out all this gunk that you have collected over your lifetime. And you're not going to get rid of everything. Yes, but you can get rid of a chunk of it, which makes a huge difference to the quality of your life and the state of your body and the state of your mind. Because I tell you, if you're in pain every day, whether that's physical, emotional, or mental pain, if you're in pain every day, you are not a relaxed person.
So about like Tao and the way and the destination, and this show is called like lifestyle design. So I'm always curious about, how do you design your life? So how do you view like creation, getting goals, or coming somewhere, or being on the path? Like, how do you decide on how you want life to be?
Water method Taoism. It's not about gaining anything.
All right.
They don't look at the goal. The goal is not to get something or to get somewhere or to obtain or to have, to own, to control, right? It's the direct opposite. It is to get rid of. It's to let go of. It's to diminish. It's to remove, to reduce. Yes? All that is negative and all that is false. Now, if you got rid of all the negative and everything that was false, what would remain? That which is true.
True, yeah.
That which is you before you're conditioned. That which is your essence. Now, your essence is who you really are, not your ego, not your clothes, your car, your position, your power, your job, your blah, 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 blah. None of that. Yes? Not even your name. That's not you. You are the soul or the spirit that was put in this body and born into this space. What is that? Okay? So this is one thing. And therefore, if this is your goal, if this is your aim, to find out who you are, to go through to your essence, to realize who you are, not as an individual, as a person, a man, a father, or whatever, but as a spiritual being. Who are you? Yes? And if this is your focus, if this is your intent to uncover that, to find that, your path will unfold before you. Yes, the cosmos. I have been amazed at how intricate the cosmos can weave a situation specific to an individual in a given moment. It's exactly what that person needs right now. Yes? And there's endless possibilities out there, you know? I mean, look at the number of stars in the galaxy. Look at the number of galaxies in the cosmos. Look at the number of grains of sand on the beach. I mean, endless possibilities. So the seed is the same, if you will. If you take, let's just say, sunflower seed, and you take 1 billion sunflower seeds and you grow 1 billion sunflowers, each one will be unique, okay? They're all the same from one perspective, and they're all unique. So the seed and the information that comes through the tradition, through the lineage of the tradition, the seed is passed on. And then the individual will grow that seed and they will express that in their own personal way. But that kernel, that seed remains, and then that seed is passed to the next generation. So the seed is intact, it's pure, it's whole, yes? And then, of course, it comes down to the personal ability of the individual, yes? But that tradition has been, it went underground for 2,500 years and then it poked up again. So all I'm saying is, you know, between Lao Tzu and the modern people doing Taoism in China, there was around 2,300 years where Taoism was underground and it was unknown where it was. And they did that to stop the emperor wiping them out. Because you know the emperor took out the Shaolin temple, right? Okay. So he took out the Shaolin, and so the Taoists went, well, we ain't having none of that kind of stuff going on. So they kept themselves very secret, very out and away. And I don't know if you've ever been to China, but I tell you.
Never.
Vast area. Yes. And even though they've got one of the largest populations on the planet, there's areas there that are so vast that you don't see another human being for 100 miles in any direction. Okay.
Wow.
It is vast. Okay. And the mountains are high and they go all the way up to the Tibetan plateau, you know. So there are so many nooks and crannies, you're never going to root them all out. And so they keep themselves, and they went underground. Lao Tzu rode out on his ox. He went through the Western Gate. What is the Western Gate? The Western Gate is the direction of the setting sun. And the setting sun is when you go into nighttime. And this is a metaphor for Lao Tzu going underground and taking the tradition underground. Because I don't know if you know, but he was head librarian in the emperor's palace.
I didn't know.
That means he was one of the most educated people in China. He was the top advisor to the emperor, and he oversaw all the temples in China. That was his position. And so when he leaves and goes away and leaves the world of dust, it is a symbolic act of the tradition going underground because the emperor's not listening. And therefore, he can no longer advise the emperor in a good way of politics. And so he went out and he went away. And then 2,300 years later, threads of Taoism resurfaced in Beijing. And the art of bagua came out into the public arena. And it had been underground since Lao Tzu's time. And suddenly, here it was in all its glory. So, this is the tradition, and this is how the tradition stays alive. And it throws its threads out. And then us modern people here, we pick up on the thread, we take what we can, we absorb what we can from that, and we share that knowledge. because for me, I did not want to be a teacher. In fact, in my early teens, the idea of teaching was terrifying to me. Yes, it was not something that I'd want to put myself through. But that unfolded on my path because I learned this. And then, first of all, my teacher would say, oh, so and so wasn't here last week for the class. Go and help them with what we did last week. Okay, I can show them what we did last week. You know, they're my friend. I know them. Oh, I can do that. Slowly but surely. Oh, okay. Hey, Paul, you know how to do this, don't you? Yeah, I can do that. Okay, teach the group that. I'm just going for 5 minutes. You teach the group that. Really? All of them? Yeah, teach them how to do that. Okay, so then you do a little bit of teaching. And so they draw you in. Yes? They draw you in. And then suddenly you find yourself, oh, you're doing a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more. And then, of course, the cost of all this training. Yes? When you're seriously training, and I was living in Europe and I was training in America, that's costly. Yes? Going to America every year or I lived in America for a year initially with my teacher in order to get going with the material. This costs money. So then you teach a little bit to earn some money so you can continue your training. This is what I mean. Your path unfolds for you. I had no intention of doing those things. Yes. And then, of course, the big carrot is, oh, if you do this qigong stuff, it's going to heal your body. You're in pain. So you do some practice and the pain diminishes. And then eventually the pain dissipates and it goes away and it doesn't come back. And you're like, whoa, that really does something. And then you find the emotional pain that you're in underneath that physical pain from whatever emotional traumas that you've had in your reality. And then you start working on emotional pain. And then you start to dissipate the emotional pain. And then you're into the realms of spirituality suddenly, generating spirit, yes, rather than qi. Spirit or shen is a refinement of qi, yes. Qi is energy. Spirit is refined energy. And there's more consciousness involved in spirit than qi. And so the path unfolds. And then it's like, well, let's see how far we can take this. Yes. Because if I've done this and now I've got rid of those things which make me feel good, and then I've got rid of these things that make me more comfortable in my skin, not just physically, but emotionally. And then you start sorting out the nonsense in your mental body and all the crap that runs through your mind every day. And you start learning techniques for diminishing that from your system. And then you feel smooth, comfortable. You actually feel relaxed, even when you're looking to the future and the future doesn't look bright. If you're intent on finding out who you are deep inside yourself, to know your heart and to know your spirit and to know your essence, if you go in this direction, your path will unfold. And I must say, that is not necessarily without hurdles. Yes? Because when you make that decision, the cosmos says, really? Well, let's throw you a few bones and see if you can get over those hurdles. And it tests you. And if you have resolve, you overcome those hurdles and you continue.
Man, your words is just sinking into me right now in a profound way. And I'm also like at the same time reflecting on myself, all of the types of methods and things I've been doing to just like sketch up my vision. What do I want from life? This and this and this, and all of the different categories of life, like just like creating like the life I think is the life of my dreams. And then when I like condense what you're saying here with the Tao way to get rid of, to diminish and to reduce and to like just like peel off all the shit, all the layers, all the trauma, just peel it off, just like minimalism, and like get to the essence. Who are you, your spirit? What is true? When we spoke about honesty, what is your honest expression? And Bruce Lee, our dear friend and idol, also like said something to that. That is the purpose of life, to honestly express yourself. And I'm taking your words here, and I'm taking the insights, and I'm gonna do something about it. And that is to reflect and have intention, because like all of the things I've been setting goals for, the financial goals, the relational goals, the parenting goals, the spiritual goals, the career goals, and my mission, and whatever I want to create out there in the world, and the podcast and whatever. Never did I once write that I want to connect with my true self and my essence.
Interesting.
And that is what it's all about. So this resonates, I understand this, but I never wrote it down. So thank you, Paul.
You're very welcome.